Hey, Buff Nation, voice of the Buff, Mark Johnson here. Coming up this week on the Buffalo Stampede, the men's basketball team off to a great start. We'll talk with senior guard Elijah Parquet. Football coming off a loss at UCLA, home to Washington this weekend. We're going to talk with Gary Barnett and Bobby Passavento and the cross-country team, as always, on their way to the national championships. We're going to talk with head coach Mark Wetmore. That's all this week on the Buffalo Stampede.
Dimitri Stanley is going to take it to the house.
There is why he's one of the best linebackers in America. And there he goes! Touchdown! Right between the eyes from downtown.
Attaboy Lolo.
It's a winner for the Buff.
Ball is right in front. A couple of shot fakes to Chief Barry.
As the Buffs attack 4-4 left, gets in the back door cut. Knee down the lane. He elevates and slams with two hands. Look out below. And the game's tied at 73. How about a key? Walker down the paint, his way to the hoop. Jump pass cross court. Parquet open for three. Fires right between the eyes from downtown. And we're tied at 80 with 17 seconds remaining. Oh, what a shot by Elijah Parquet. Kick out high on the left side, Bartholomew. Drives away to paint, bounces off him, and goes up strong. Count it! Whistle and a foul! Oh, the drive, the draw, and the dish by Keyshawn. Evan Batty with a potential three-point play. And the Buffs are on top by 5.
Now the Colorado Buffaloes are up to a 2-0 start. There's some images from their opening victory over the Bobcats of Montana State. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Buffalo Stampede here at the Event Center. Voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. One of the two scholarship seniors for the Buffaloes, Elijah Parquet, joining us here for a couple of minutes. Nice start to the season. Let's go back to that game with the Bobcats. First game of the year, young squad. There were some rough spots in that contest, weren't there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We had a good fight that game, so it got a lot of showed the youngest what was going to happen throughout the season. Some adversity hit, so we got the chance to see how they handled it.
You know, for you and Evan, here you are, like I said, the only two scholarship seniors on the team. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. I mean, you've got to help coax these young pups along, don't you?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growing to do, but that, like the coach Bull said, they had to grow up pretty quick, so because we're going to need them to step up and help us throughout the season for sure.
Turnovers through the first couple of ball games have been an issue. I guess when you've got a young team, that's part of this, isn't it? Learning to take care of the ball. Young players have to understand, number one, how valuable that ball is, and number two, what kind of intensity you got to play with.
Right. That's been an issue for a minute now, especially in practice too. So that translates to the game. So we're not gonna have no turnovers, but we just want to limit those turnovers as the season goes on. So
yeah,
that's a big goal.
Exactly. That game got awful tight there for a while and went to overtime, obviously. Right. You had a big three-pointer just over here on the right wing over here. Talk about that play and that shot. First off, Jabari finding you was a fantastic pass.
Yeah, that was a great pass by Bari. I missed my last 3 threes that game, so I came to the bench because the other one I could have tied it before, and I was mad at myself. My teammates just said, "You keep shooting." So I got the open look, so I knew I was going to knock it down.
You know, Tad Boyle always talks about this program being a program where you develop players. There's no greater example of that than you. You came in here and have turned yourself into a very good player. How'd you get yourself ready for your senior year, understanding all the responsibility you're going to have, the role you're going to have to play in this team?
I just trust the process. Ever since my freshman year, I just kept working every year. I took a part of my game. I wanted to get better at it every year, and I knew this year we were going to have a lot of young guys, and I was going to have to step up, be a leadership role. So
you know, we used to call him Eli. You asked to be called Elijah. What's behind that?
I just wanted to change it back to my full name. Senior now, so I'm getting called Eli off the court still, but for the rosters and stuff, I wanted to hear my full name this year.
Well, remember, Elijah Parquet. We'll continue with him in just a moment, talk about the second game of the season against New Mexico. Let's hear from the head coach, Tad Boyle.
Hard-fought win. I knew it coming in that Montana State they're a good basketball team, a veteran team, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I'm really proud of our players and the fight that they showed. We weren't great. It was kind of an ugly win, but they showed a lot of grit down the stretch. Yeah, great hard-fought win against a really good team. I got a lot of respect for Montana State and their players and their coaching staff. You know, our backs were against the wall, and, you know, I saw a little bit that in Nebraska and Lincoln when we got punched in the face. Our guys didn't quit. They didn't go away, but we've just got to understand it's a 40-minute game, and there's going to be ebbs and flows. You know, look, so there's a lot of things we got to get better at. Guarding the ball, post defense. I mean, there's a lot of things that Colorado needs to get better at, and our guys understand that, but that's what the film room's for. And, you know, now the games start coming, and so the balance between making sure we're improving and, you know, cleaning up what we learned tonight, and because we have to take days off. They'll get rested tomorrow. We'll get 2 days of practice for New Mexico and get after it.
There's some comments from head coach Tad Boyle after the Buffaloes open up the season with a victory in overtime over Montana State. We continue with Elijah Parquet. All right, New Mexico. I didn't get a chance to be here. I was in Los Angeles doing football for that ball game. Tell us about that contest. Pretty competitive contest. You guys really had a tough time pulling away against the Lobos.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of a back and forth game throughout the game, so we didn't really get stops that we needed to get. We didn't reach that goal of getting, we call it kills per half and stuff like that, because they were scoring and we were scoring, but later throughout the game, we got our stops. But we want to start the game off like that, not finish it like that.
Kills, by the way, that's the term that Tad Boyle used. That's 3 stops in a row, right?
Yep.
3 stops in a row defensively. You get a kill that way. And it's tough for a young player sometimes to learn, isn't it? And Tad talks to you guys about this all the time. That defense creates offense, right?
Right. That's what we hang our hat on, is the defense and the rebounding. And when we struggle in that, you can see the score is kind of close the whole game. And when we do that stuff, the score takes care of itself.
You know, against the Lobos, the big fellas got it going. Evan Batty was outstanding. Jamari Walker had a big game. The guys inside were doing their job, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They had a big game. They stepped up for sure and did everything they needed to do. Barry had, I think, a double-double.
Yeah.
He was on the boards a lot for sure. Evan's doing what he does.
Well, what's Evan like in the locker room? Because, you know, everyone loves Evan Batty. He's such a gregarious personality. Is that way back in the locker room as well?
Oh, yeah. It's always his attitude and energy, just infectious energy. He's always keeping us going, keeping us on our toes, and making sure we know what we're doing.
All right. It's a great start to the season. Buffs are 2-0. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate you.
All right. Elijah Parquet, senior for the Colorado Buffaloes. They're heading off, by the way, to the Virgin Islands for a big event coming up this weekend. Coming up next year on the Stampede, we're going to talk football. Buff fall at UCLA. Coach Gary Barnett will join us.
Snap dropping. Lewis rears back, going down for the home run down the right side. There's hand catching and a bobble and a grab down the right side. Yes, it's a reception. Daniel Arias down the right side, inside UCLA territory. He actually had to reach out.
Well, it's one of the great venues in college sports, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. There we saw a great catch by Daniel Arias, but the Buffaloes were up 20-10 at the half and up falling 44-20 to UCLA. Coach Gary Barnett, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. Welcome into the Buffalo Stampede. Well, what a tale of 2 halves that was, huh?
Well, you know, we're going to talk mostly about the first half, I hope, because that, you know, in that half, we did a lot of good things. Now, you know, I think we both knew that as that first half was unfolding and UCLA was shooting themselves in the foot time after time and helping us out, that this may not last, but because that's such a veteran football team and a talented football team that you sort of thought maybe they were falling apart and we were just going to be able to take advantage of it. But we made some great plays. We ran the ball well. We did a lot of good things in that first half. Right at the end of the first half, though, Mark, when they got possession of the ball, went down and scored, and we knew they were going to come out in the second half. In that drive, it looked like they knew what they had to do from that point on.
You could kind of feel it. It was 20-7. They got the ball back with inside a minute to go, went down, kicked a field goal, and 6 consecutive possessions then, starting with that field goal, and then 5 consecutive touchdowns in the second half. Defense just had no answers, and we're giving up big plays in that second half.
Second half, it started by throwing the ball over the middle on us, deep, big crossing routes, and we had no coverage. And then they started running that read option at us into the short side of the unbalanced formation, and we had no answer, and it literally ate us up in the second half.
Yeah, you could see as that second half wore on, the defense was just gassed out there, and then offensively, whatever was going well in the first half. The Buffaloes, by the way, went over 100 yards rushing in that first half. In fact, Jarek Brassard for the second game in a row went over 100 yards. but that dried up in the second half as well.
It did, and it was like it was a different team that came out in our uniforms than what we were playing in the first half. And you know, it's happened to us a couple times.
Yep.
But you know, I think we all hope that after the last 2 games that we played and the way we played them, that was the trend, not the old team that we played with the 6 games before that.
The Buffaloes fall 44-20 after the ball game. Here at the Rose Bowl, we heard from head coach Karl Dorrell.
Man, that was an unfortunate performance. We played a decent first half. You know, I thought offensively there was definitely some positive signs of we got some run game established. You know, we hit a few things in the passing game, but it was good to churn out some points and get some drives going. You know, we were handling their offense fairly well from our defensive standpoint in the first half. We knew that coming in at halftime to try to approach it as a 0-0 game and to come out with a blank slate to win the second half, and that's where you know, we didn't get the job executed the way that we thought we would. Defensively, there was 3 consecutive scores on 3 drives. That was unfortunate for us at the start of the third quarter, and we just lost our rhythm, you know, from that point forward. It was really challenging to stop their offense, both from a pass perspective and in their run game, which was starting to churn out some yards. So we shot ourselves in the foot. It was really all of, in my opinion, our fault as a team. We didn't execute. We didn't have the right play calls. So it was one of those things where we could have been much better, and unfortunately we didn't. It didn't end up that way.
Well, the former coach here at UCLA, Karl Dorrell, now the head coach of the Buffaloes. Of course, he's coached 5 years here. Also played for the Bruins back in the day, back in the mid-1980s, hearing from the Buffs head man afterward. Brendan Lewis, we saw some progress against Oregon and Oregon State. First half, played pretty well. Then he almost seemed like he took a couple of steps back in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, it did. Mark, you know, a couple mistakes he made. A couple times he held the ball a long time, and sometimes he dropped wrong. But he seems to work best when the ball comes out now and the read is simple. And he's got enough stuff on the ball to get it there. But you tell him to throw the ball deep to Daniel Arias, he throws the ball deep, drops it in there perfectly. And he's just got to get it out quickly and to get confidence, I think, as much as anything. But that seems to be when he's at his best.
You said in the postgame of the radio shows are wrapping things up. Next week, you got Washington coming in. Final home game of the regular season, Senior Day, with the Washington Huskies coming to town. Right now, it's about getting another victory, having some successes, heading to the offseason, feeling good about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, this team needs to go win a football game. You know, at this point in time, we don't care how many. They need to win another one to get some momentum going into the offseason. And, you know, the game against Washington, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
And it's going to require all we can do, as every game has been for us. But that's going to be one of those games.
Well, the Buffaloes and the Huskies next week. It's at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. The Buffs and the Huskies, our coverage on the Colorado Football Network. It's underway at 11 a.m. for the Buffalo Stampede pregame show. We'll take a break here on the Buffalo Stampede television show. Former quarterback Bobby Pesavento, our sideline reporter, is going to join us next.
Hands off, stutter step, right side to the goal line he goes. Touchdown! Touchdown, Colorado! From 1 yard out. Ends, Lewis turns, hands off, Fontenot, right side, end zone! Touchdown! Touchdown, Colorado!
Well, Alex Fontenot didn't rack up a lot of yards in this one. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns. It was Jarek Broussard who went over 100 yards for the Buffaloes rushing. As we continue here at the Rose Bowl, Buffs fall 44-20 to the UCLA Bruins. Former quarterback, sideline reporter Bobby Pesavento, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. All right, you were down there in the field. What was your view of this deal?
Well, let's talk about the positives. Talk about the first half. I think the offensive line played really well to start the game, and we had a good scheme going, and we were slowing them down defensively, and but they're a veteran team with a veteran quarterback, and at the end of that half, when we couldn't get a touchdown and we settled for a field goal and they went down and got it within 3, the momentum shifted and they just never gave it back to us.
Yeah, you could kind of feel it at that point in time. Now, the Buffs did come back and respond, but it was 20-7 at one point in time. You played that quarterback position. Let's start with Dorian Thompson Robinson on the UCLA side. There's an experienced guy, played a lot of college football. He carried his team that way, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he is a dual threat guy, obviously, right? He can beat you with his feet, but when you give him enough time, I mean, he can make whatever throws there are. And he led those guys, even when they were down. You know, I'm sure on their sideline, they never missed a beat because they knew who they had playing quarterback. And when you got a leader that's been doing it for that long, that's the positive that comes out of it. And he took this game over.
Yep. Brendan Lewis on the other side, he's the young quarterback. We saw movement forward against Oregon State. First half, it was there. Things began to sputter in that second half when the pressure then was on him where he had to make the plays. Like we saw DTR make plays for UCLA. That's a lot to ask of him. It's a growing process, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is, right? I mean, when we were in the first half, when we were running the ball and moving it, it was easy to drop back and throw it, right? Because that's football. But when, you know, they found a way to stop our run game in the second half, so when we had to lean on Brendan to throw it, he just not getting through the progressions yet, not making the best decisions and not making the best throws. But that comes with time, and it's a tough learning process that he's going through right now.
And many of you heard me say this on broadcast before. Life and sports are tough teachers. They give you the test, then the answers after the fact. And that's one thing that Brenda Lewis is dealing with right now. One of the veterans on this team is a tight end, Brady Russell, and he talked after the game.
It was really unexpected, so I guess that's probably what was so frustrating about it, because we showed what we can do, and I don't think it was that they elevated their game that much. And credit to them, they did do an awesome job, but I felt like we brought our level down after playing so well in the first half. We have so much fight, and guys were trying. They were just a matter of them making more plays than us. I don't really know what changed. I don't know, it was a weird feeling. It was deflating for sure, but it didn't change what we need to come back and do next week. So, one thing I pride myself on is having a neutral mindset. So, I mean, I don't care if we're winning, if we're losing. I think I've been a steady guy the entire year, staying the same as I have been and harping on guys the same and pushing them the same way that I have been is really important to keep us going in the right direction, because when we have the highest of highs, I don't want to be acting different than when we're all the way down here, because it shouldn't affect the way you're acting. You need to come to work the same way every day. So.
There's a tight end for the Buffaloes, Brady Russell. We continue with Bobby Passavento. You know, one thing that this defense with this team this season has been tested and exhausted at times, and that unit in the second half seemed to me they were kind of running out of gas out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I mean, when it goes hand in hand, right? When the offense isn't putting drives together and they're 3 and out and the defense isn't getting a lot of rest, it's tough on them, because when they get right back on the field and they're getting pushed around, and that UCLA team was big and physical, it'll wear them down, and that's exactly what happened to them.
You know, the Buffaloes next week, we got Washington coming to town. We just talked with Gary about the opportunity there. And you know, you went through the 2000 season for you guys, and it wasn't a great season for you guys. You came back in 01, of course, it was a phenomenal campaign. So you've gone through a season where you've struggled. You know how it can wear on you as the season goes on. But still a big opportunity next week in the final home game.
Yeah, it's tough when you can't put wins together. But they, like you said, they have an opportunity. They get to go back to Boulder, back to Folsom, and play a beatable Washington team. So, you know, they got to get through this. They got to learn from it, and they got to be prepared and try to go get another win.
Well, it's been a struggle here in Los Angeles for the Colorado Buffaloes. They haven't won here since the year after Bobby was done in 2002. Gary Barnett and company came in here and beat the Bruins 31-17. That's the last time Colorado came into Los Angeles and beat the UCLA Bruins. It didn't happen in this ball game. It was 20-7 at one point, 20-10 at the half. 6 consecutive possessions and 37 unanswered points by the Bruins, and the Buffs end up falling. And now they've got 2 games left. Washington next week, 1 o'clock ball game, and that's followed by the game the day after Thanksgiving. They'll take on the Utes of Utah in Salt Lake City. Coming up next, we're going to talk cross country. What a weekend it was for Mark Wetmore and the CU cross country men's and women's team. We'll talk with the Buffs head coach next here in the Buffalo Stampede.
Abby Nichols, the Colorado senior. This is just a victory lap for her.
Covert is going to be second, 1-2 for Colorado.
So Colorado, I believe, Tom, gets 5 home in the top 12, and that should win a team championship for the Buffs. Herrera's going to hold on for 3rd. You go ahead and count them. Count 5 jerseys for Colorado. Congratulations on a team championship. Another one for Wetmore. He's unreal.
The Wetmore factor, baby.
Hold it up high.
There we can look at the Colorado cross-country team. The last time they were in Utah prior to the Mountain Regionals, that was in the Pac-12 Championships. Back in the Stampede, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. Mark Wetmore, head coach for cross-country, coming off a adequate weekend, I think is how Mark just put it to me. Yeah. The women finished second, the men finished third. Women get the automatic bid. How'd you feel about the performance?
Again, yeah, the word is adequate. We needed to get through and did what we needed to do. Everybody goes there trying to be a little careful and save a little bit for 8 days later. So I think we did that, and yes, we're off to Tallahassee.
That's an interesting balancing act to me. So you held some runners out.
Yep.
How do you determine that? How far you want to go or how far you want to hold back?
Yeah, it is a balancing act. In the case of our women, we kept 2 of our top 5 out. In the case of our men, we didn't hold anybody out, but we spared them any pep talks.
Okay.
So the idea is to qualify and hopefully to be rested enough to run well again in 8 days.
So is the purpose of that just from a resting standpoint, or what's the kind of the logic behind it?
Well, whether resting physically or resting psychologically, one of the two or both. Yeah.
Okay. How was the course?
Well, the course was good. We've been there before, but on a different half of the same golf course. So it was new. The parking lot was the same, but the rest of the race was new. It was a little more, had a little more character than 2 weeks before when we ran on 7 soccer fields.
Yeah. The way the Buffs now, though, the women have qualified for the national championships 13 consecutive years. The men 30 consecutive years. Those are pretty heady numbers.
It's a tough region, too, so
yes.
We're particularly proud of that when you're dealing with BYU and NAU and Utah and New Mexico year after year. It's a hard conference to get through, so they work hard to do it.
Want to talk about some of the individual efforts of the Mountain Regionals last week. Right now we step aside for our correspondent Alicia. She's going to chat with Hannah Minuti.
Thanks, Mark. I'm here talking to Hannah Minuti, who is a freshman on the CU cross-country team. Hannah, you're the youngest on the varsity team by over 2 years. So what have you learned from the older woman, and also being young with this new fresh perspective, what have you taught them?
Honestly, they're so all inspiring, and like they all just like have such grit and work so hard. So I've kind of learned that, you know, even when things feel hard and when you feel like you're like backtracking or you're not having your best day, like you have each other and you can always just push forward and work together. So a lot about like strength, and then, you know, I've always kind of tried to bring like a fun side of things and joking side of things, and they carry that too. So it's just a good mix together, honestly. I love them all.
I agree though, you definitely bring this really fun, lighthearted perspective, and I know everybody really appreciates it.
I try.
Yeah. So moving forward, you have nationals this Saturday. Super exciting, probably the biggest stage you've been on. So how are you feeling mentally, and what are you going to do to make sure you're feeling your best on the starting line?
I'm honestly just trying not to overthink things and, you know, just have fun with this week. It's obviously a really exciting week, and we've worked super hard to be at this point. So it's kind of just like counting my blessings for one, because like I didn't expect to be in this position, and also kind of just trying to stay calm and have fun with it, and, you know, a lot of big things coming, and, you know, a lot of confidence in the fitness. So just kind of, this is the part that we've been ready for, and hunker down and get going. Yeah.
You've been training really hard consistently, and it looks like you have a really fresh perspective. I think you're going to do great, and we're all excited to watch.
Oh, I can't wait.
Back to you, Mark.
Here we hear from one of the women's team members for the cross-country program, Hannah Minuti. As we continue with Mark Wetmore, the Buffs getting ready for the national championships down in Tallahassee, Florida, coming up this weekend. Before we get to that here, your individual performances. Abby Nichols was the top finisher for the women. How did she run?
Perfectly on cruise control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same with Lalo. They don't like to be third or fourth or fifth when they're right in the thick of it with a kilometer to go. But they know a couple of percent save this weekend and might be a couple of percent gain next.
I'm always fascinated by, you know, you think to yourself, if you're not, you know, versed in running, go out and run as fast as you can. That's not what you guys are doing at all. It really is fascinating.
Yeah, we're different from other sports. When I first started here, there was an associate AD who really came down on me hard when I said we didn't try as hard as we could. And I said, there's times, conference meet in the nationals. So beyond that, it's cagey.
So the season all builds up for this now, right? Now you got on to Tallahassee. Tell us about the course down there first off.
Tallahassee's a good course. It's not entirely flat. Has some character to it. It disappears into the woods for a nerve-wracking few minutes per loop. Women run 2 loops, men run 3 or 4, I guess probably 4 this weekend. But it's fair. It could be hot. We'll see.
Yeah. How do you prepare for that? Now, here you're of course getting ready here in Colorado where it's cool. You got to go out to. How do you factor that in?
Can't. Yeah. You just have to hope that it isn't terribly hot and hope that you manage it well early in the race.
All right. Well, fantastic. Great luck. It all builds towards this. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, no holding back this weekend.
That's right.
Thanks a lot.
Mark Wetmore, cross-country coach here at the University of Colorado as they head to the Nationals this week down in Florida. That wraps up this week's Buffalo Stampede. I'm Voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.